Hey, what's up guys, it's Fish here and welcome to this super special video. I am joined by two of the developers of the Seven Kingdoms mod for Attila Total War, and today we're going to have a little Q&A. So I am joined by Blickmang.
Hi, everybody.
And Weed.
Hello there.
And yeah, you guys, if you want to just say a little what you kind of do on the mod and what your like role is in the mod team.
We both do everything. My name is Blickmang. I'm the project leader. I started the mod as you currently know it, and Weed came on board about a month ago.
Hello. He handles all the models. I do all the balance, coding, data, anything that has a number on it. I'm probably the one who did it.
Yes, the brains under the hood.
All right, awesome. So let's get in straight into this Q&A. The first question is, will there be naval combat?
Yes, but it's not anything on our radar right now because naval combat is essentially just units thrown on ships. So we need to make the units first, and then we need to make the ships. It's very far along, but it's something that we definitely want to do. Like the Ironborn, if the Ironborn aren't coming in on long ships and have galleys that are flinging catapults in cities, it's just not Ironborn. It's not right. It needs to happen. They need to have ships, but that's just not an immediate concern at the moment.
So the main goal right now is just to get all the units finished and up to date with the current version.
Yeah, like naval combat is sort of like a specialty thing, especially because we plan to do a lot of custom maps, and naval units are not compatible with custom maps right now. They just will not work. So if we made King's Landing, you couldn't have Stannis coming in on ships because the ships aren't allowed to exist on that map for reasons because of the updates not happening to any of the map modding tools.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything you want to add to that, Blick?
No, we do plan on it making it possible, for example, for the Greyjoys to, land on a coastal battle, to do raids, things like that. But naval combat's a very big endeavor for us too. And if we do it, we want to do it right. So we want to make it possible eventually to have custom ships, but we do have to work within the limitations of the engine as it currently is.
Okay, awesome.
That said, though, sorry.
No
That
worries.
said, though, the ships that are in Attila right now are pretty much almost exactly what we need. They have Vikings, they have longships, they have galleys, which are the same kind of style of ships that Stannis use. They even have sloops and types of things for the Muslim factions that we could use for any Dornish things if we felt like adding that in. If that's a big thing in next season, we have no idea. But the changing for ships is more like the aesthetics. Like we want to put faction symbols on sails. We want to make sure all those shields that hang on the side of the ships, that they have the proper faction decals, so that you're not, riding in and all your ships are decked out with Roman stuff or crazy Viking stuff or anything that's not related. The immersion would be completely broken if you saw that.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. So if we move on to the next question, will units/houses be balanced individually?
Not at the moment, no. Right now, we're trying to get the basic, very base raw balance in. Like medium beats light, heavy beats medium, cavalry beats swordsmen and loses to spears. Archers just murder everything because they're archers. It's that kind of balance right now. But once all the factions are more flushed out, then we can start doing individual, unique balancing because the factions are very in flux and unit performance is innately tied to unique visuals. Like the way that it looks is the way that it should perform. And if we decide that this unit looks this way and I code it that way, and Blick decides he hates it, the Starks are terrible. We need to get rid of them all. We need to upgrade their armor. And they come out and they look like they're just badass. They look like their armor value should be higher than everybody's. Then that needs to be changed, and it needs to get changed across the entire board because all the units are balanced in comparison to each other. So shifting one shifts everything. And if you're doing that a lot, it's impossible to keep a solid balance around. It's just not doable.
Yeah, and we do have some houses that are customized at an individual level. Two good examples would be the Greyjoys, where they lack cavalry, but they make up for that with higher infantry stats. Another example would be the Dornish, where they don't have heavy infantry, but they make up for that with a wider selection or maybe improved stats for the lighter and medium infantry.
Okay.
I was also thinking about giving them certain units that the other houses would not have because of their cultures. Like, I'm going to say if horse archers existed in Westeros, because we haven't seen them in the show, so it's not really like they're depicted, but I would say that they would be more of a Dornish thing. So if anybody's going to get super annoying light horse archers in the game, besides the Dothraki, which we're not talking about, it would probably be Dorne.
Yes.
Okay, so again, just kind of trying to flesh out the mod completely before you kind of look at the individuals of each house and faction.
Exactly, and that extends into many other different areas of development too. Well, for example, will characters be included? We build the foundation first, and then from there we build up.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
like we have the foundation for characters existing. We have the faction cards and the idea, and generals have abilities right now. I'm working on trying to get them more unique, special abilities that'll give them more of an impact. But as for like individual models for people on the show, that's very far down the road, and that is a tall order to even think about.
Okay, cool. I mean, I think you just answered one of my questions later on down the list, but I guess we'll kind of just run over that a little bit later on anyway, just to kind of make sure we've got everything to do with that question. So the next question is, will House X, House Y, or House Z be included? So by that, I guess I mean, will like every single individual house be added in Westeros?
This is my favorite question. Yes, and I have to answer it because it's the source of many sleepless nights and many bouts of frustration. Looking at the world that's presented in the world that we're trying to recreate, it's something that we could literally spend probably 2 or 3 years developing and fully recreating, because it's there's so much depth to the world. There's so many different houses, so many different characters, and for us, it's a matter of prioritization at this point. We need to get, first of all, the main houses that are in the TV show completed before we look at expanding into maybe ones that existed in a different time period. Maybe they're in Essos, or maybe they're in some, just these kind of obscure houses that maybe aren't mentioned much in the TV series or even in the books. For example, the Blackwoods. That's one where we do plan on adding it because there are references to it, but it's a very low priority house for us. So I guess to summarize it, to get to the point of it, we do plan on adding as many houses as possible, but it's just an issue of prioritization at this point. So we have to really take our time and make sure the main ones are done before we start going for these smaller ones. I think people would, there's some frustration and impatience right now, but they would be even more frustrated and more impatient if we worked on the Blackwoods before we made the Dornish, for example.
Do you want to take any semi-canon stuff, Blick, like the Foresters, for instance, since we seem to get pestered with that question?
Oh yeah, we get that one a lot. Yes, but further down the road. Ideally, we have every single house mentioned in Game of Thrones. I mean, that's the end goal, but we have to prioritize. And like I said, we first have to get the ones that are in the TV show done first, and then we start looking at the books in the obscure references, and then we start looking to ones that maybe are featured in an external video game.
Okay, good. I guess this leads me on to my next question pretty well. Will the Targaryens be included? And you kind of mentioned it before, how you might be looking to add in different houses from different times. So will we see like an Aegon Targaryen faction compared to, say, a Daenerys Targaryen faction as well, just after the beginning question?
This is a good question for you.
Okay, this is a harsh question, like, for the time period, is because it's all about references and making people happy. Everybody has in their own head an idea of what this should look like when they read a book or when they see an artistic rendition, because there's several different kinds of artistic renditions all over the place. So people form this own like internal idea of what the thing should look like. When we do stuff based off the television show, and the reason that we did that first is because that's grounded. When people think, what does a Stark look like? They immediately pull all the Stark soldiers and their the tunics. The Burgundians? What are they called again?
There's padded leather things. Yeah.
God. All right, well, they have this own idea of what the thing is supposed to look like. So if we try to do Targaryens in the prehistory, about the only reference we have is the Kingsguard from the Dane flashback, and that's not very far with regards to what Targaryen troops specifically should look like. I mean, we can take a guess and assume that they sort of look like what other houses in the Crown's Lands look like, except with dragon stuff all over them. And since they were the ones ruling Westeros at the time, that their equipment would be exceedingly ornate, intricate, detailed, studded with rubies and all kinds of other things. But that's about it. So, yes. Like, we don't want to do any of this, like, freewheeling, just come up with whatever we want until we have everything that we have grounded to be in the game first. If that
and from my perspective as well, especially creating the units, It's one thing to look at a blank screen on 3ds or Photoshop or ZBrush or any of these other development programs. Whenever you have a full list of references, you have pictures, you have videos that you can reference to actually try to recreate these units. But when you don't have those, it's an entirely different animal. So especially with the Targaryens, because there are no references, we're working pretty much entirely with our own imaginations. And it could be the
And
case
that's just
that
never going to make everybody happy.
Exactly, yeah. So it could be the case in season 7 that we do see more flashbacks, we do see more Targaryens. So that's why, especially with them, we're looking to kick the can a little bit further down the road before we really invest in it, because that's a huge faction in terms of lore. It was a huge faction in terms of military, just the size and scope of the units that they had. And if we do it, we want to do it right. So with that in mind, we're going to wait a little bit probably just to see further references. And if those references aren't available, we'll take our best shot at it.
Also, we're not making dragons because I can't make things fly yet.
Yeah, which is the next question, actually, I think.
Yeah, the next question is, will dragons be included? So is that just a no? Is it something that might be included later on down the line, say if you do find out how to do it?
If somewhere along the lines a miracle happens and can be made possible, surely we'll do our best to make that happen. Blickman, I'm sure you can try to texture a dragon. It's all about whether or not the game can accept it, and right now it's just not possible.
So we're working within 2 constraints, and the first constraint, and I think we elaborated this over the course of the last few questions, we have to work within the constraints of the show. And obviously there are some things that the show has that we just can't fit within the constraints of the engine itself. And like most things, we have to find a compromise between the two. You know, we want to include as many different things from the show as possible, but we have to fit it within this little shoebox that's the Attila game engine. And unfortunately, there are limitations for that. And even looking at White Walkers or other things, we really have to bend and shape and experiment and really push the limits of what the engine is capable of doing in order to achieve these things. Attila wasn't designed for dragons. Maybe Warhammer was, but I mean, that's an entirely different subject. But right now, looking at it, I don't think it's possible. I think if it is possible, it's not something that's going to look very good, and then we just get a lot of complaints. So it's extremely low priority for us. Possibly in the future we'll look at it, but I think it's a safe no at this point.
Okay, so if dragons aren't going to be included, what about White Walkers? Because you did just mention about them and kind of stuck them in the same sort of pool as dragons. So does that mean that White Walkers aren't going to be included, or is that something you guys are looking to implement?
Okay, I can take this. We like, if we wanted to make White Walkers, we could do that. Like, just like the White Walkers as a thing. But it's not, when you want to make White Walkers, you just don't want to make White Walkers. You're gonna make the whole feel of White Walkers. So you're gonna need zombies. You're gonna need lots of zombies, and you're gonna need the whole aesthetic that comes with zombies. And like, it's about making White Walkers feel more than just a retextured soldier killing someone. Because if they don't feel like White Walkers, then all it is a recolored Roman soldier killing somebody else. And that's just lame, and we don't want that. If we're gonna, like Blickman said earlier, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it 100%, and we're gonna make it feel good. So right now, like, we have ideas, and I guess it's completely possible to retexture soldiers to look like White Walkers, but whether or not we can get a solid feel of the White Walkers is an entirely different story.
And we'll touch on this too. There's another question further down the road about how we're going to structure our updates and releases. And I could say initially, and we'll go into further detail later, we do plan on including a culture pack of sorts, as you probably know it from the Attila and Rome Total War games, for everything north of the wall. And that's one area I think we do have a lot of flexibility. We do have the ability to actually create these things the way that we want.
Okay, sounds awesome. So the next question, which we kind of touched on a little bit beforehand, but will there be custom generals from the show, and will these generals have special traits and abilities?
All right, Blake, this is you, because this is more of a modeling thing than it is for anything about data.
Yes. Just for some quick background before I answer this question as specifically as possible, it takes an average of 12 to 15 hours of work, I mean, from start to finish, to actually create a unit. So when you look at a set of Lannister armor, or if you look at a set of Stark or Tyrell armor, that's about 12 to 15 hours work per unit. Now, for some of them, for example, the Tyrell units, which Jackie displayed in, I think, his last video, we can clone more or less and make a lot of soldiers have that same look. But for generals, that's just one unit on the battlefield, and it still takes about 12 to 15 hours of work just to recreate that one specific person. So with that being said, it's a huge time investment. It's a huge investment of assets, not just from myself, but from the other members of the team. And with that in mind, it's a very low priority at this point. We do plan on flushing them out, creating Tywin Lannister with his own specific set of armor, or Ned Stark, etc. But it's low priority, at least from a visual standpoint at this point.
Yeah, like we have the unit cards in there as basically placeholders for something that we want to do. The generals right now are they're a future plan. The generals are going to be one of the more interesting prospects of the mod, but as of right now, like the way it looks, it's a time investment. If we spent time just making the generals that we have in the game right now, then we would probably spend months that we weren't making other factions or other units or anything just to make a general model look that doesn't really do anything. He's leading his troops, and it's awesome, and it's great immersion, but that facet isn't integral to the mod functioning.
I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That right now is kind of the main focus of the mod is just to kind of get all the current factions in the show, in the mod, and like working properly, and then kind of using that to look forward to kind of add in the nice like trimmings around the edge later on down the line. That definitely does.
Trimmings around the edge is a great way to put that.
Correct.
So my next question is, when will the mod be released?
It never will be. We plan on keeping it to ourselves.
No, this is ours. You can't have it.
Yeah. We discussed this, and this is still a subject of debate, even within just the development team itself. We're anticipating, I would say, within 2 to 3 months. We're looking at a timeline between Halloween and Thanksgiving, most likely. For those outside of the United States, Thanksgiving is at the end of November. So that's the time frame we're looking at. We do have the mod to a point where it theoretically could be released right now, but we're not satisfied with a lot of the content in the game. There's a lot of things that, for example, I couldn't model whenever I first started Seven Kingdoms. Now I can. So I want to go over and redo a lot of these older houses. As an example, I just redid all of the Karstark heavy infantry. I think I added 14 custom models and textures to the game. So once we get that out of the way, once we really flesh out the different features and the scope of the mod that we want, it should be ready between Halloween and Thanksgiving.
Cool. I think you just made a lot of people very, very happy with that little answer there.
Yeah, and Jackie, I mean, you played this yourself. You see that it's to the point now where you can actually play house versus house, region versus region, and I think you, just having played this, can kind of see that development.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've seen the mod come a long way, and it's awesome to finally see like actually having different factions come up against each other instead of trying to fight like internally within a faction, which was only possible, say at the beginning of the mod creation. Now actually being able to have like Tyrells up against Ironborn, or Tyrells up against the North, or Ironborn versus the Riverlands or the Vale. It's awesome to kind of see all these factions coming together, and then when the mods actually release and having these huge lobbies of people playing each faction, I think it's gonna just look absolutely amazing. I can't wait for that.
Think of it like layering a cake.
Yeah,
like the first layer was just a raw base, and then each new layer of additional house allows us to add a little bit more detail and a little bit more depth. And then once we get like the base foundation of the cake, we can start doing those extra little trimmings, like you said. Like, and that's just all icing on the cake as we pile it up on top of itself.
Yeah, so that actually kind of just pops a question into my head quickly. Are we going to see like more custom weapons for each of the houses as well? As I said, like I assume it's going to be part of the trimmings as we're using that word. But like, are we going to see, say, like maybe House Stark using completely different weapons to say the Vale or someone like that? Because obviously we already see that in the Reach. The Reach using kind of a completely different standardized one spear. Much more of a professional army compared to, say, some of the other factions which have all these jaggedy weapons and stuff like that. Are we going to see kind of that come through in all the houses at some point?
Yes, absolutely. We have to work out the details, but I can say just over the course of the past month, we added, I think, 25 weapons in total. Everything from spears and swords to the halberds and what's the name of that little hook thing? It's like a big spear.
The Volg.
Volg, yeah, that's it. We added those since. We distributed them pretty evenly across factions, with some maybe a few exceptions like the Reach, as you said. But we do plan on fleshing that out. We do plan on really customizing it, not only at a region level, but also a house level. So, for example, the Umbers will have slightly different weapons than the Starks, who are a little bit richer, a little bit more powerful.
Okay, that sounds
It's about
awesome.
making them look clean and ugly. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was...
So the northern units are going to try to look. We're going to try to make them look as rough and ragged and ragtag as we can, while the Reach, Dorne, all those other cultures that are about looking good, looking clean. Like, because we can make all these things. It's about making them feel and match the way that they portrayed in the show. Because the people in the show, they go through a lot of effort to try to just convey a feeling that people have, like, from these different cultures and the way they portray themselves. And it's about putting that feeling into the units in the game, so they don't just look like reskins. They got to look better than that, because the amount of time Blick puts into them is more than that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, something I've definitely noticed with the recent update, with all the different type of weapons you guys have added. I think that's a really, really nice addition. So my next question is, are there going to be any limitations to customization and immersion in the mod?
Yes, we touched on this briefly, I think, at a few different points in the video so far. Now, we're going to answer this, and I think this we'll discuss the campaign also in further detail in a separate video. But we have to work with what's available to us. We have to work with within the constraints of the engine as it currently is. Unfortunately, and I wish it weren't the case, Attila has a lot of restrictions, especially with the campaign mode. We can't create custom maps, for example. We can't create custom sounds for the mod. So regardless what unit you click on, you're going to hear the same audio. You're going to hear the same dialogue. Custom music, really all of these things we just can't change, even if we wanted to. So there are limitations. We work within those limitations. We do the best we can, but at the end of the day, we can't make a true total conversion, just because for example, the tools for Attila actually make the mod, they're not finished, they're not updated, they're not working.
I'm really hoping that hopefully when CA moves on to their next historical title, that a lot of these older games like Shogun 2, Rome 2, and Attila can get some better back party support, because they're just kind of like being left out into the dust with regards to modding and all the things that you can take with them. So that, and their communities are suffering for that. I really hope CA goes back and they give those games some love, like the Operation Repopulate Shogun 2. That was awesome. We need more stuff like that.
Yep.
Right,
but it's not just us too. Rise of Mordor has the same headaches that we have, and we discuss that with them very frequently.
Yeah, which is very, very unfortunate. So yeah, I guess that kind of answers. I guess we'll go on to it now. Will there be a campaign mode for the mod? Short
again,
answer?
we'll keep this. Yeah, we'll try not to talk, because we could talk about this for probably an hour. So I'll try to keep it short. I know we have time constraints here today. We're going to work on it. We're going to give it our best shot. It's a task that's going on in the background. One of our team members, Zuma, he's actually working on it. He's a very skilled guy. He's made tons of different mods for Attila so far. But like I said, we're working within the constraints of the game engine. And unfortunately, it's the case that there are many limitations, and that really affects the course of action that we take over, while developing the campaign.
Just not having audio, without a doubt, is the biggest problem with the mod, simply because of how annoying it is for us as modders. We work hours and hours and hours to add the littlest bits of detail and immersion, and as soon as you click on a unit and you hear Roma Invicta, it's all thrown right out the window.
Kills it, yeah.
It's not about whether we can. It's about whether it's worth it or not to us. Like, because of the amount of limitations and because of the sheer amount of effort and drive that we put into the project, why would we want to go all out and to only make a half-finished product? And every time you click on a unit and you hear the Scourge of Rome or Scourge of Christ or in the name of God or anything like that, it utterly ruins it for you. And we're doing our best to make everything so unbelievable that that's a minor concern. But even then, it still nags at us every step of the way.
No, that definitely does make sense. That's all you guys can do. So yeah, let's move on to my next question, which is kind of a jump back a question as well. Is, are you guys looking to improve the UI anymore? Because we noticed in the previous update that you've added them little icons, which me and Apollo definitely love, above the units. Are you looking to kind of take that further with anything else?
Is this yours or mine? Like, what do you think?
This is yours. That was your baby. That's all your work. So.
Okay. I didn't know you made the cards. You made the art. I just coded it.
It was your brainchild, so.
Okay,
Go for
UI
it.
work is something that we're going to try to do as much as we can over time. When we talk about immersion and all that stuff going over the top to try to get over those other hurdles that we can't jump over, UI is one of those good aspects. UI is,
Yes.
it's just something that takes a little detail. It takes a lot of playing the game. So you have to know, what would look good and what would look great. But as of right now, we've got a lot of really cool things already into the game. And Right Brother, the person who made the gold-black UI scheme for us, I'm going to see if I can talk to him and see if we can get more unique visuals added to the game, like wallpapers, backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. Because that's actually relatively easy to add, but it's hard to add right. There's a real art to that, and White Brother is incredibly good at it.
Okay,
So
sounds
yes,
awesome.
hopefully there will be more in the future.
Cool, so let's move on to my last question now, is how will the release and updates be structured?
So before I answer this, we do plan on releasing some additional information in the near future. I do plan on including just a rough roadmap of how our releases and updates will be structured, maybe on ModDB or something like that. But just to give you a quick preview of how we plan on doing things, as I said before, we have our first release scheduled for probably, and don't put a gun to my head over this, between Halloween and Thanksgiving. I mean, that's always subject to change. It could be the case one of us breaks our arm or our leg. Until then, with that first release as a base, we'll have all of the major houses of the TV show covered. From there, we plan on releasing general updates in increments. And with each general update, which would include optimization, bug fixes, etc., we will have one specific content focus. And this is really what opens up the door to any number of possibilities, whether it's Essos or the wildlings or the White Walkers. So just to give you, I guess, a concrete example, say we release the mod on Thanksgiving, and for our first update, we have a culture pack of sorts that's called North of the Wall. In that update, we would have not only just the general bug fixes, but also the wildlings, the White Walkers, the Children of the Forest, or any other asset specific to that content focus. And again, that's just an example, but one thing we do plan on doing is expanding the regions that we have. So for example, we could have a Reach or Stormlands culture pack where we just add 15 different houses to it. So that allows us to continue development over the long term while adding and fleshing out these little these little obscure houses that people still do want.
Okay, awesome. I think that's all my questions. If there's anything you guys would like to add, which you don't think we've covered in this Q&A, then feel free to say it now, or any final messages you want to give to the people watching.
What do you got? You got any messages for the people watching, Bookman?
Thank you. The support's been incredible. It's all taken place in such a short span of time that we're really grateful for the community that we've attracted. We're doing our best to satisfy what people want. Just keep in mind that we invest a lot of time into this. We invest a lot of energy and emotion into this. It's not an easy task, and at the end of the day, we do have to keep our own wishes in the picture. So we do our best. We'll try to fix everything you guys want fixed. Just stop asking me if another house will be included. It's really driving me to insanity.
Okay, awesome. Well, a massive thank you guys for coming on and answering these questions. I'm sure people have got all the information they wanted, and I guess if they have any more questions, they can stick it down in the comments, and I'm sure we can maybe take that into account maybe in another couple months if we do this again, and kind of look at where the mods come since then or something like that. Would be kind of cool.
I think it would be cool to do an update video.
Yep.
Recurring. That would be nice.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Well, yeah, as I said, a massive thank you guys for coming on and answering these questions. I appreciate it. I'm sure the people at home appreciate it as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Jackie. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.